Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a new and ancient story community live streaming with Q&A with Charles. My name is Patsy, and we have Todd and V and Charles with us today, along with five other guests. Before I invite Todd and V to say a few words. Sorry if my phone. To say a few words, I want to introduce our live chat hosts, Nori and Connie and Michelle. Please say hi to them. So here, Todd and V, would you like to say a few words to our audience here? And Todd, would you like to start?
Yeah, thanks so much, Patsy, for the opportunity. I just really want to take this chance to thank, I know there's a lot of new and ancient story community members watching what we call NAS, the NAS community, and let them know how grateful I am that 6 months ago I was in a hospital and got diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer in my liver. And along with my beautiful partner, Rochelle, and my men's group, recovery group, this community has just become such a part of my healing process, supportive, and not just in the thoughts and prayers way, although that's important too, but real, phone calls and messages, and even a gathering at V's house where you came, Patsy. And I have just been so filled with love and support from this community. I just wanted to take this minute you've given me and express my appreciation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. And for your tech support in the background.
Yes, you're quite welcome.
Hey, everybody. I similarly feel very grateful for this treasure trove of I just find everybody here just to be so amazing and just the light of Charles's work and its calling in of people. It is also very healing for me to find this tribe, and I'm just grateful to be here and let the show go on.
Thank you, V. Thank you. So I'll see you soon in NAS. And now, dear Charles, how are you? Big welcome. You're muted. Oh, here.
Unmute. There, unmute. There, how about now?
Yes, it's good now.
Okay, sorry, I hit stay muted by mistake. Yeah, thank you, Patsy and Todd and V and everyone else who's helping. Yeah, Todd, we've, as you know, we've all been following you and, moved by your bravery, and also, I mean, for me, you've also kind of anchored NAS in reality. Like, there's, real people going through every up and down of life imaginable in this community. It's not just like talking about ideas, so yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. And right now I'm at a beach, actually. My parents-in-law are having a birthday celebration, and I wanted to do my family duty and show up to it and enjoy my other relatives here. And so here I am.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
But, so Charles, that's I had thought of this phrase that you had used, real life intruding.
Yeah, there might be a little real life intruding as people come in and out, and Yeah.
Yeah, that anyway, it's we'll just be in life. So I want to Charles, do you know that Nat is moving into this month in September?
Yeah, 1 year. That's right.
Yeah, so this AMA we didn't plan a theme because we just want to kind of do a confetti style and see what comes up. So we have like topics around the world predicament and our individual responsibility, parenting, the role of our community, even a very personal questions that is very at the very end. So guys, if you want to hear that question, stay to the end or take a break and come back to the end. And also a sacred economic technical term questions that's in there too. So Charles, so now you know that we have this confetti style. Do you want to some kind of official opening, or do you want me to bring up?
No, I think I'm just going to respond to what other people are offering. There's an awful lot on my mind right now, but I'm going to skip that and let's just go into questions, and then maybe, maybe I'll riff on some of it as it comes up.
Okay, great. Thank you. So our first guest is Dan, but before we bring Dan up, I want to mention something. Because this is our like almost a year birthday, and I thought of birthday celebration in America is very different than how I would celebrate it myself in my own family. Like when our children are this is the day of reflection and give reverence to those who were involved that usher us into this world. And then we will discuss the milestones of what happened in the previous years. It's like the rocks that build the foundation of who we are. And then we will set an intention forward. So and he is bringing us a inquiry sort of about that. So welcome, Dan.
Hello. Thank you,
Nice
Patsy.
to meet you. So Dan is from Australia, right?
No, New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand. Sorry. Yeah, we have 1,000 members, so forgive me. So
That's okay.
Charles now. So enjoy. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Patsy. Hi, Charles.
Hello. I need to go to my car and charge my phone. This is a problem, but I just need to get my but I will listen as I do that. Where's the key? Let Stella go.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to the whole community of NAS, because I realize that everyone contributes to it, and it's been such a century. And thank you, Charles, for sparking it off and for your words and wisdom.
Thank you.
My question.
Hold on, I just have to, I want to give you my full attention, but I can't find my car. Oh, here it is. You found it? Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. This was an unexpected complication, but
real life.
Here's real life intruding here. So I'm just gonna go to my car and I'm gonna plug in my phone.
It's like a really nice day there.
It's such a nice day. Summer is still with us, and yeah. So really apologize to everybody for this disruption. Now we will.
This is a very Charles, like unpredictable.
Well, I charged my phone fully before I came. So.
So Dan, you said you're from New Zealand. I think I know why. Is it Auckland, New Zealand?
No, Palmerston North. It's in the middle of the North Island. So it's 8:30 in the morning now.
Wow, thank you for getting up early. Uh,
Oh,
Okay.
that's okay. Today is actually Father's Day in New Zealand. So I
wow.
was treated by my children and wife to a lovely breakfast of pancakes.
Mm, oh, so nice.
All right, I'm good.
Okay,
Okay.
here you go.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So thank you, Charles, for your words and insights. It's been really, really helpful to me over the last couple of years. And my question is actually a response to a question that was posted a week ago on NAS by Deerheart Goodpasture. And she says, what if NAS is the liminal space and the new and the ancient are all here? When are you from? Tell me your story. And that set me off on a bit of a trip in my head. And I just responded to it with this. And I'll just say the whole comment so that you get the context and the spirit in which it was said. I never expected an answer to this question, but I'm really interested in what you would say. So this is my response. When are you from? What an interesting question. Thanks for sparking off a new line of thought for me. I am from the present. When else could I possibly be from? My story is a conversation between my genetic ancestors and descendants. If NAS is the liminal space, how is this transition on a whole Earth scale being served by us as a community? And how could this transition be served on smaller scales through this community?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, thank you for that. There's certainly a lot there. The question, when are you from? It strikes a chord, doesn't it? Obviously, the answer is all three, past, present, and future. I think many of us have the sense sometimes of being emissaries from the future, or not the future, but a future that is, I call it the more beautiful world my heart knows is possible, but a future that is, that we catch glimpses of through peak experiences in our own world that indicate to us what the world could be. And in those experiences, could be of healing, forgiveness, generosity, peacemaking. In those experiences, or flow, synchronicity, I'm sure I'm not the only one who has a feeling of homecoming, as if I'm from the place where those things are normal. It's my home territory. There's a recognition. So the intention of NAS is to be an outpost of that particular future and a servant of that future, something that helps shift humanity onto the timeline that goes to the future that we are actually from. How that, how we serve, I am learning to trust more and more a feeling of I'm doing the right thing right now, or a feeling of I'm not doing the right thing right now. Even when my mind can't calculate or argue that what I'm doing is useful, yet I know that it is useful. I feel that it is useful. And that's what Patsy and I are trying to navigate by in setting up this community. Like, I cannot say through a chain of causes how creating a online space for reverent communication is going to change the world, is going to stop runaway climate change, is going to stop civil strife, political totalitarianism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I could speculate, on how it's going to help, but it just felt like the right thing to do. It felt like, yeah, this is something that I can do and that's necessary. And like I think I put in one of my recent essays or something, like the main crisis that humanity faces right now is a crisis of the word. It's a crisis of agreement. All of our problems are actually easy to solve. You know, like to take climate change. I mean, if we put half the world's oceans in marine preserves, had a full moratorium on clear cutting forests, and converted to regenerative agriculture, there would be no climate crisis. It would be gone in 5 years, maybe 10 to heal, or 15 to heal some of the long-lasting damage. But it's not actually a hard problem to solve. But we don't agree. We're not coherent. And the reason that we're not coherent, or one reason we're not coherent, is that we are not seeing and speaking to each other in the truth of the divinity of all beings. So that's what NAS is meant to nucleate. Then as far as, okay, and that doesn't mean that we don't take some kind of action as individuals, as groups, maybe even as a whole community when the occasion arises. But we don't have to say like, okay, if we don't take action, then we're not doing anything. Even just to cultivate new habits when talking about difficult, contentious issues, like already, I think that is a pretty good service. So, yeah. Yeah, I could say more about it, but I think I'll leave it at that. And I don't know if there's something burning that you wanted to follow up with, then go ahead. Otherwise, we can move on to another question.
No, that was good. Thank you.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. So welcome, Mike. So I remember your question is relating to using the vaccination as like a catalyst to deliver something that's more beautiful. So welcome here to present your question to Charles.
All right. Hi, Charles. I've written out my statement so that I could kind of get it in clearly for you. So I'll start with reading this basic thing. It's called Uncharted. There are millions of people in the United States alone and millions more throughout the world who are refusing to receive COVID-19 vaccines. Some are concerned with the current science of mRNA technology. Some refuse based on their individual religious perspective. Some refuse based on their alternative health and healing perspectives. Some have medical conditions which make the vaccines disadvantageous. And there are many other reasons. Many of these people are simply not going to get the shots. What do we do with people who refuse to be vaccinated for COVID-19? Our culture is moving further and further along a path of dividing people into two camps, vaccinated and unvaccinated. This is happening by government mandate, employer mandate, and more importantly, peer pressure. Vaccinated only signs in shops are now a reality. They are in my town. I'm sure they are for a lot of people. Uncharted, this is the concept, Uncharted, is a response to the simple sounding yet very powerful question which is being used to divide people into these two camps. The question being, are you fully vaccinated? We're hearing this question more and more from shop owners, employers, health professionals, acquaintances, friends, and family members. The answer is expected to be yes or no. The Uncharted concept offers a third response which can be added to respect and encourage individual privacy and choice in the vaccine decision. Uncharted means that I may or may not be vaccinated for COVID-19 and I'm keeping my information private. So if someone said, Mike, on publicly, now my family, I would let them know based on to make sure they feel safe or whatever. But if somebody comes up to me on the street and I'm running my little shop and they say, are you vaccinated, fully vaccinated? I would say, actually, I'm uncharted. And that would be my answer. And it also means, so to go on, it also means that I am concerned that individuals who are not willing or interested in getting a vaccine for COVID-19 are going to be facing more and more condemnation for their decision. And I believe individuals have the right to make their own decisions about which medical treatments they deem helpful and which they don't. The Uncharted Revolution is a global nonviolent civil disobedient movement, inspiring people on both sides of the vaccination experience to proclaim their vaccination status publicly and professionally as uncharted. And finally, we stand with people who choose to be vaccinated or unvaccinated by removing the ability to distinguish them from us. We are uncharted. So that's the concept. And I after I kind of formulated that and with a friend of mine, especially, I thought, I heard your AMA and I thought, oh, this would be a really neat place to ask someone who I've read your Festival of Death, the Death of the Festival articles, and those were really powerful for me. And this came up right after that, and I wanted to kind of have you comment if possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's a provocative idea. What you're really trying to undermine with it is this incursion of medicine into more and more areas of life, where basically I'll use the word totalitarianism, which basically puts one thing above all other things. Like for example, a way to classify human beings. How do we classify human beings? There's many ways you could do it. You could do it by skin color. You could do it by civic participation. You could do it in many ways, good and bad. But it's a kind of a takeover of medicine to classify people according to vaccination status and then to delineate their rights and privileges accordingly. And so a lot of people, even if they support vaccination, reject that reach. So I think that like I'm sure it'll appeal to a lot of people, but also a lot of people are going, I mean, you know this, I don't have to tell you that people who support mandatory vaccination are going to be like, well, this is just a way for people to get out of it and shirk their social responsibility. We're not going to allow that. So, I just think it's not going to work. But I appreciate the impulse to undermine that totalitarianism. And I don't know, what came to mind, I just saw a meme that I would, if I could screen share, I would share it, but I'm on my phone now. But it was a photograph of two women walking hand in hand down the center of a street. There was like even a yellow line between them, and it's from behind. And one of them had a sign on her back that said vaccinated, and the other had a sign on her back that said unvaccinated. And I was like, yeah, there it is. Where kind of like you're getting at with Uncharted, they're saying there's something more important than whether I'm vaccinated or not. I'm not going to define my entire social life and my entire evaluation of other people on this one thing. There's something more important. And what is that thing that's more important? It's walking hand in hand together. So this is something that's very controversial to say in times of war, to advocate a pacifist position, or to say, this issue that everybody thinks is the most important thing, maybe it's not that important. Maybe we should refuse to be put on one side or another. And so I guess maybe the Uncharted idea is part of this pacifistic impulse, or this realization that like we're creating a fight where there really doesn't need to be one. And yeah, people who are advocating compulsory universal vaccination will say, no, 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 this is very important and people are going to die and so forth. And I would just say, there are other things that are important in life besides how many people are going to die. There are other ways to navigate our lives. There are other ways to make choices. There are other ways to make public policy. I think it was Glenn Greenwald pointed this out. He said, you know, we could save a lot of lives if we had 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. You would become less of a danger to yourself and to others if we had universal, strict 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. But we understand that there are other values at play here. So one of these other values, you know, is, yeah, we're going to hold hands. We're going to love each other. We're going to accept each other regardless of what medical decisions we make. And we're just not going to buy into the propaganda that says, if you do not abide by the rituals and taboos that our medical authorities are prescribing, then you are a psychopath, a killer, only loving your own freedom or something like that. And like, maybe also Uncharted asks us to be more curious about something besides your vaccination status, or maybe, well, why do you not want to display your medical records to everybody? So I don't know, a lot there. Yeah, so I just offer that, and I'll turn it back over to you or to Patsy if you want to add anything, or we can.
Yeah, I would just like to say that, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I it's great. I also did create a website for this, so if anybody wants to find any more information or like read it and send me ideas for how to edit it and improve it, it's called unchartedrevolution.com. So it's all written down there, and you know, thank you so much, Charles. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
And Mike, are you an artist?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, I just a second here. I want to.
Yeah, there we go.
Look at your
Wow.
This art.
Yes. I'm in my art studio here.
Art website.
Yeah, my art website is just my name, mikebiscop.com. You can always find me there too, and contact me personally through that also.
Well, thank you for your creativity. So we'll see you back in NAS.
Okay, thanks, Patsy.
Thank you. And our next guest is Virginia Bauer. That's welcome, Virginia. So
hi, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So Virginia, we were suggesting each guest to kind of frame their questions around like 1 or 3 minutes for the timing for the rest of the guest planning, because I know that you arrive a little bit later, so I just want to let you know that we had to mention that. Okay, so welcome, and have you talking to Charles.
Great. And sorry, I actually was here. I was just on some other Zoom link. I don't know how I got there, but anyways, yes, my question is, I'd like to ask Charles how we might look at our current predicament, which I'm a practicing Buddhist. Buddhists call it the age of decline, and there's no need to go down the list. I think we all know what's on that list. But I wonder if there's a way to look at it from a wider lens, maybe more of a mythical perspective. That's just a term I came up with that seemed like could be appropriate, which could help us to better see how we can serve, what needs are in truth, the greatest needs, etc. I think this has something to do with perhaps discernment, with intention and intentionality. So that we can be contributing in the most helpful, loving, healing, and productive ways. So if you get all that, and then just to say, the unraveling of our planet and its creatures can feel like a very heavy burden some days. So I'd like to think in terms of lifting up the gaze, and is it in mythical, not meaning not real or not true, but just something to help us to understand perhaps a wider perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thank you for that. The age of decline. I guess the question is, what is in decline? In some very obvious way, our civilization is in decline. The animating fervor, the enthusiasm, the can-do spirit, the optimism about the future, the eagerness to participate in a coherent project that includes all of society, that's all gone. There's maybe still remnants of it, but just comparing it to my childhood, when everybody my age was excited about going to space, and that's something that unified the nation and was celebrated around the world, like going to the moon. There's nothing like that today. There's nothing like, I mean, they're proposing to go to Mars or whatever. Like, do you even know that they're proposing? It's not, we are going to do that. Like, probably most people on there don't even know if that's actually going to happen or no, like, it's not gripping our imagination. And that's just one indicator of the decline of something. But I think also we can recognize that there's also something in ascension, something rising, something, people call it consciousness, which, again, like, I'm not sure if consciousness can increase or decrease. I think it can become conscious of things that was not conscious of before. And we are becoming conscious of things as a society that we were not so conscious of a generation or two ago. Yeah, I just posted something on Substack describing a conversation I had with Philip, and he's 16, Patsy and my son. And sometimes the things that come out of his mouth reveal like an emotional awareness and an empathy and a seriousness that it's not only that I didn't have that at his age, like, it didn't exist. There was no one in my peer group remotely asking, oh, like, Dad, how do I distinguish what's actually disrespectful from my own projections, from my own resentment? Like that, like, wow, like, when are you from, because certainly not my generation. And so that's a sign of a renaissance, a civilization in that is, I would say, maybe maturing. I'd say, like, questions like that are a form of maturity. And if we translate that to the collective level, the emerging consciousness is one, I mean, to use a Buddhist term, of interbeing, that asks, well, what's it like for the earth? What's it like for the river? What's it like for the soil? What's it like for the people in Afghanistan or in Watts or next door, or in a nursing home, or like this accompanies, stands alongside the decline that you're speaking of. And for me to be sane, I have to take both of those in. I could quote I'll quote Chogyam Trungpa, who said, if you can hold the pain of the world in your heart while not lifting your gaze from the great eastern sun, then you can make a proper cup of tea. Proper cup of tea meaning precise, helpful action. the great eastern sun, meaning the basic goodness of humanity, the aliveness and intelligence of all things, the inbuilt purpose of the universe, the miracles of healing, and the other things I spoke of, generosity, forgiveness, like all of the most amazing things and mind-blowing things and moving things that we've ever experienced, those have to be part of our data set as well as the perception of decline and all of the horror and all of the suffering. Only when we have that full deck and not push away the ones that are, I mean, you know, on the one hand, not to hide our heads in the sand and not see what's happening to the sentient beings of this earth, and also not to push away the potential for transformation. That is sanity, to encompass all of that. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. It's not I haven't really offered you a myth, but it is definitely another storyline. Yeah, do you want to follow up anything or? No, okay. All right, so yeah, thank you for.
Yeah, thank you for, yeah. I mean, I think the decline thing is, yeah, it's obvious, but yeah, I appreciate that, seeing side by side.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you for your contribution. And we have a post-event Zoom gathering. You know, we can go back there and converse more. Charles, since you mentioned the audios that you just put up in Charles Random Podcast and Substack, Words to a Young Man, I thought that maybe I will bring the questions that's in relation to parenting, and it's a Proxy question, so I'll be reading it to you. So you know, because you say that, wow, you know, our younger generations, you know, they are so intuitive, and they seems like from a different time, the kind of question they ask can be really wise and surprisingly wise, and I totally agree with you on that. I feel like I learn from my children all the time, you know. So here is the question. It's from a mother. Hi, Charles. I'm wondering how you navigate raising children when you feel morally when you feel morally opposed to the direction society is moving in, yet your children still want to feel normal and participate in mainstream life despite its growing list of uncomfortable conditions. Is there an achievable balance between putting our foot down about something and going with the flow of others? Or do you believe it's best in these times to fully commit to a specific path that resonates with our hearts and raise our children accordingly? Part of me wants to fight like hell to make sure my kids know what it means to be fully human in communion with natural life, but other part wonders if I would be doing them a disservice by delaying their participation in a modern, digitalized, gamified world, especially if that is the direction in which industrial society is inevitably moving and where their future jobs and friends will be. Would love to hear your thoughts and how you handle all these, both of your children, you know, all of your children.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just start by saying I don't have a clear formula to navigate through those compromises that we all, whether for our children or for ourselves, that we make, because, you know, here we are on this planet, in this society. And yeah, you might believe that children should, live in this way, that way, be totally free. But, you know, there's traffic out there. There's property lines. There's all kinds of things that we have to navigate. So, but I will say, this question of, well, you know, should we make sure that they are prepared for the future that is inevitably going to be one of, you know, high tech and artificial intelligence, and, you know, it's all going to be on screen, like the information age intensified. Do we know that that's going to be the future? You could say, well, we have to prepare for the future, but maybe it's the kind of the other way around, that the future will be what we prepare. I don't think the future is set in stone. And when we capitulate to something that we think is the inevitable future, we become victims of that future, and we relinquish our creative capacity and our choice of what world we're going to live in. And that choice, then, we can also include our children in. So over, you know, having 4 children, like, I've become more and more zealous in, like, at least guarding and providing as much of the kingdom of childhood, I like to call it the kingdom of childhood, as I can, where imagination is free, where they're not inundated by violent imagery and cynicism and uncompassionate behavior, like to try to, like, really give my children good nourishment. And as, like, you know, by the time a child is 7, his or her personality is mostly formed, and they're going to be resilient, and they're going to be able to meet the trials of the world because they've been well prepared. And you could also say they've been prepared for a future in which the kind of skills and the way of being that are cultivated in the kingdom of childhood will be useful, where imagination will be useful, where compassion will be useful, where knowledge of plants and animals will be useful, where comfort in the outdoors will be useful, where trust in one's own body and its healing powers will be useful. Like, I'm preparing my children for that, or doing my best to, because you, and if you say, well, the future won't be like that, the future will be mandatory, you know, biannual immunity updates that you pay for, and increasing technological integration with the body and so forth. Like, no, it won't. No, I don't agree with that future. And that future only comes through our agreement on a collective level. So let's not agree to it, and let's hold a different future and live into that future and raise our children into that future as best we can. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. That's my, you know, and part of that future is you learn to get along with and communicate with people who have very different beliefs and different life experiences. So I do think that interacting with other children who may not, you know, be inside of our tight pod of, you know, forest education and imaginative play and minimizing screens and minimizing sugar and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, maybe, yeah, we have a solid pod, a sanctuary where we build that character and those perceptions, and then, you know, we go out into the world, and then we come back and we integrate that, and we learn to be carriers of a different future.
Thank you, Charles. And Molly's question, she asked specifically, or um, I sense that her maybe indecisiveness or struggle is probably has something relating to like technology and screen and all that. So I want to share my own experience with my children. My children are very tech savvy, and we went through that inner battle, questioning ourselves about, screen time and all that. So this is something that we came up with, is that they can use the screen if they're using it for doing some kind of creativity. But if they're just kind of absorbed in video game and lost themselves, then that's a no. So I think this question about natural life or technological life is not this or that, but like how you include that in your parenting.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that, and yeah, thank you for adding that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And so, yeah, one of my friends, in our democratic school time, one of my friend that she has a single boy and one child and live in a metropolitan area. She has this method of letting her son just use as much internet as he wants to, and turn out he had and the internet that he uses is he's involved in a lot of like interpersonal game, with other people. So he developed a lot of interpersonal skill. So, I really don't know whether this is all bad or good. I think it's really has to do with how parents work with it. So anyway, thank you for listening. And we have our next guest, our beautiful yogini, Alison, right? Alison. Here you are, Alison Faith. Thank you
Hi.
for your earlier offering of meditation today.
You're very welcome. It was something that I did ostensibly for the community, but it turned out to be very much for me in preparation for this session. So it was a pleasure. Great to see you again, Charles. So much juiciness in the conversation so far. My question is a question about questions. I once heard, I can't remember when, and it doesn't necessarily really matter. I think I heard you talking on a podcast about the value of looking for the questions that no one is asking in a particular scenario. What are we missing? And so at the current time, when really the focus is so strongly on COVID and especially the drama of the vaccine debate, which quite rightly is a very big issue for us to be aware of and be focusing on. One of the things I'm wondering is, what are we missing? What are we allowing ourselves to be distracted from in the current time? And I'm just wondering what from your perspective are the questions that no one is asking right now that would be really beneficial?
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say no one is asking them, but they're the questions that are neglected. So one of them is in terms of COVID, or public health, like what is the foundation of health? What is the evolutionary purpose of a virus? What is human life for? And that gets into issues of staying safe. Obviously, human life is not for staying safe. I've been entertaining a slogan that is from Burning Man, safety third. Like, it's not unimportant. They don't ever say what first and second are, but whatever they are, safety's third. Yeah, it's important, but not the most important, not even the second most important thing, because there's something to live for. When the question, what is a human life for, why are we here, is not answered, then we might as well, devote ourselves to self-preservation, to self-interest maximization, to staying safe, to being secure, financial security, because you're not living for anything. So you might as well just stick around. Like all that energy, the life force kind of gets turned against itself or turned inward. I think that the key question, that, not to sound like a broken record, but because I say it a lot, but it is, what is it like to be you? In politics and political debates, I like to take it to the vaccine debate again. You know, I mean, on both sides, I see the anti-vaccine side, like kind of assuming that virologists, vaccine scientists, like doctors, et cetera, are like corrupt, ignorant. They just haven't thought of this obvious thing, and like this kind of caricature of the opponent. And on the other side, this view of anti-vaxxers who only love their own freedom and are not compassionate and don't care about others and are hysterical, you know, and dogmatic. Like, okay, what is it actually like? Like, what do they actually think? What is their actual experience? This is not happening very much. It's become a war where you on purpose dehumanize the other side. It's the opposite of asking the question, what is it like to be you? You on purpose dehumanize them so that you can win the battle. Like if you, in the media, if there's a picture of a famous anti-vaxxer, they choose the most unflattering image that they possibly can. So, yeah, and that's called war. So anyway, those are some questions that I would like to see us ask more. I mean, especially like maybe why, here's another one, why are we so much less healthy today on average than we were in 1970? Why is there such a huge increase in autoimmune diseases and chronic conditions? Like if we really cared so much about human life, why haven't we radically changed society to meet that crisis, which kills many, many, many times more people than COVID ever has, and in the prime of life too? Like, why was it not important then? Like, and then that leads to another question. Okay, if it isn't coming from the noble impulse of saving as many lives as possible, then what is it coming from? Like what anxieties, what fears, what agendas, what is feeding into public health policy today that did essentially nothing to, okay, anyway, then I'm going to get into the whole, I mean, the whole world of, you know, holistic living and all that. Anyway, I'll stop here, unless you want me to say anything else.
Oh, that's great, thanks. It is kind of all rounds up for me, a lot of it in the question, what is COVID showing us about humanity? I mean, for me, there's just so much that I'm becoming aware of, both encouraging opportunities for growth and healing, but also the horror of the way in which we seem to have forgotten how to have a healthy disagreement with each other. We can't deal with conflict anymore. We can't say, I disagree with you, but I love you still. That image you were talking about the two people walking along hand in hand, one vaccinated, one unvaccinated. Why should that be such a beacon of light? Surely that should be normal, but it's not right now. So yeah, thanks. That's great.
Thank you, Alison. So let's see. Our next guest is Nick Short.
Hi there. You can hear me, yeah.
Hi, Nick. Welcome. Could you tell us where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, I left my heart in Brooklyn, New York.
I found that last week on the sidewalk.
So the guest from that strong Brooklyn accent you've got there.
Yeah, yeah. It's $10,000 of elocution lessons.
Is that it? Yeah, so
Yeah.
lay it on me.
Yeah, so it's nice to be here, and I'm almost brand new to this community. I only joined a couple of weeks ago, and I came in from places like Rebel Wisdom and the Stoa. That's where I found my way towards this work. Yeah. And my question relates to something I was noticing in those communities, and I just wanted to ask your opinion about it. I noticed that in the sense-making spaces, which I know I've seen you there as well, on Rebel, for example, there seems to be a lot of really clever people diagnosing the meta-crisis very accurately, guys like Schmachtenberger and Jamie Wheel. And then there's this other sort of faction of people, seems to be more female actually, that are engaged in practices like intersubjective space practices, that, where they're trying to seemingly source new kinds of wisdom and ideas and creativity as a way to move forward post-diagnosis, if you will. I noticed it in several communities, and I just wondered, and I've become quite interested in those practices. I just wondered what your thoughts were on the role of intersubjective practices and practices like that in what's happening, in trying to source what are we doing next, collecting wisdom.
Yeah, let me just find my seat here. So I would go to the, I would maybe call it the root. Hey guys, I'm just gonna sit here. Yeah, I would. So these intersubjective practices, I mean, some of them are like kind of dialogic, you know, they're dialogue based, but a lot of them involve the body, let's just say the body. There's something else going on besides the processing of information that can be converted into words. And I think that the limitations of the sense-making world, you know, like, and some of the people you mentioned, can only be resolved by sourcing something from outside and beyond data. And this idea that you're going to get, you know, all of these different sources of data and all the experts, and they're gonna analyze them and figure out what's true and what isn't, and make sense that way. I'm a little skeptical of it. I've like, just to say like my own process, you know, so I published this, you know, everyone knows now, this mob morality essay, and then got denounced for it, and you know, accused of, you know, putting lives at risk and, you know, literally killing people with my writing. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe it's true, you know, and like, so I'm going to look into some of these claims that I cited in the essay. And I talked even to a microbiologist who like, you know, basically said, transmission among the among the vaccinated isn't a thing. Autoimmune dependent, antibody dependent enhancement, that's not likely. I mean, he just like went through the whole thing and like demolished every single thing, every single piece of the anti-vax argument. But then like, I'm like, okay, let me really look carefully at his sources and his reasoning. And I'm like, actually, like, you know, this one's questionable, that one's questionable. But then like, and I just went down like this really deep rabbit hole to get, and I ended up like in very, very technical questions of, I'm on a webinar here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know whose those are though. You could take those. No, I'm not sure who those are. I ended up in these very, very technical questions of like, do the genetic modifications to the S1 subunit of the spike protein actually impede attachment to the ACE2 receptor as they were designed to, or is that actually turning out to be less effective in vivo than was hoped for? And does the study that claims that the attachment was reduced, does that actually show that? Like tiny little technical details, you know? And I'm like, I'm never gonna figure this out. PhD biochemists don't agree on it. How am I ever gonna settle on it? And I came back to actually the origin of my own, you know, so I'll out myself as a vaccine skeptic here. Like when Patsy and I had our first child, this was 1996. I didn't know any of this. But when the time came to like contemplate, you know, well, gonna get your baby vaccinated, I was just like, no. It was from my gut. I didn't have any reasons, but I just was like, no, I'm not gonna do that to my child. All of the reasons came after that. And some of these gut reactions, like our guts and our hearts, they integrate information in a different way that our brains do. And my gut reaction is not something I can use to persuade somebody else. Believe me, because my gut said this, because maybe their gut says something else. But it's key for my sense making. Like when I contemplate a world where, you know, you get your automatic booster every 6 months, you know, for every virus that they've cataloged, and you're living in a world where your physical location is constantly traced and tracked to keep everybody safe, and like every object is tagged with an RFID chip, and everything is surveilled, and like this world of control, which in the eyes of the controllers is a utopia, because we're going to make everything more rational and we're going to protect everybody. And, you know, progress means more and more control over the reality. Like it seems like a good thing, but something in me just says, no, no. And from that place, there's like an entire mythology of sense and meaning that I can construct. And then I can go into another place where I understand the mind of Bill Gates, and we're gonna make everything great for everybody. If we just put everything in one big data set and administer it with AI, like I can go into that and I can see, and the whole world constellates into another set of meanings and another sense. So basically what I come to is I can survey multiple mythologies, multiple stories of the world, multiple ways of making sense of the world. And then I'm like, okay, which one feels right in my body? Which one do I align with? Which one is who I am and who I am becoming? How does it feel? Like we have to get back to the body to make sense of the world. We can't just rely on the mind. Is that relevant to, I guess I kind of deviated pretty far from those collective processes.
Sorry, I kept losing it. The internet was coming in and out. Sorry, I wasn't sure what you said at the end. You said, did you answer the question? Is that what you asked me?
Yeah, is there, well, I hope you picked up most of it. We luckily have a recording,
Yeah,
but, yeah.
I just lost the last sentence or two.
Oh. Yeah, just, is
Yeah,
that,
I mean, yeah, no, not really. Not really.
well, tell me what's the loose end?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm finding interesting, yes, I agree 100% about embodied wisdom being needed. But the thing I'm finding fascinating about intersubjective spaces is there seems to be something in addition to just the humans that are sitting there that's emerging from these spaces. A field seems to open, and there's something numinous that I can't understand or explain that seems to be happening in those spaces. Yes, embodiment's required as a prerequisite for it, but this other thing seems to be happening that seems to me interesting and exciting and ancient, perhaps also. And I just wondered if you'd experienced that, or think it's important in all of this, or has a place in all of this. Yeah.
And are you talking about in-person spaces or virtual spaces?
Both, actually. I've seemed to have experienced it in both settings. Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm curious.
Yeah. So in those intersubjective spaces, a field of agreement can be summoned, and it can not only I was going to use the word colonize the minds of everybody there. That's a bit not quite the right word, but also it even can act as kind of a reality generator that essentially brings the whole group into the reality defined by the sense that they have come to together. It's interestingly, I've found that those field generating practices are less effective when they are recorded, and and when there's an attempt to broadcast them outside of that enclosure, then it's like the resonance chamber has a leak in it, and it doesn't build as strongly. So, yeah, these are profound practices that say a lot about the nature of reality and of the power of the word, the power of agreement, and human creativity. So, yeah. Sorry, I went on that whole long other thing.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. So yeah, Patsy, should we?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Thank you for your contribution and welcome to our community. So we have, this is all of our guests, and we have like 2 questions that's by proxy. So I'm gonna read it to you. The first one is Molly from our book club that is reading the Sacred Economic. She said that this week that I was going, we are unclear about what it is meant by currency being backed by commons. And this is in the chapter 11, the revised edition of Sacred Economic. Oh, you were muted, Charles.
Sorry about that. There's a loud conversation happening right near me. So, currencies of the commons. Gosh, yeah, I wrote that like 10 years ago. I think what I'm talking about there is an idea of like, how do you, like this idea of backing a currency. People have the idea that, like, say, a gold-backed currency is reliable and stable because the money represents actual gold. And I think in the book I said, that's actually kind of iffy. We are telling a story that it is backed by gold. We have some agreements that if you but go somewhere you can exchange your dollar for a certain amount of gold. But actually, when gold-backed currencies were actually in existence, people rarely actually traded them in, because what they wanted was money, not gold. So, however, when it was backed by gold, we had more and more gold being mined in the world. So what happens if we back currency with what is actually precious and sacred to us? And among those things could be things like virgin rainforest, or untapped aquifers, or biodiversity, or something like that. The idea being that just as with gold, the more when you make money represent gold, you mine lots of gold, you have more and more gold. Well, maybe if you back money with rainforests, you'll have more and more rainforests, because we hold them precious. So the story called backing says, here's what is precious to us. And then we serve that, and we try to create more and more of that. And it's like, so practically how to do that. I'm not sure if I want to get into all those details, but you could have, in fact, a friend of mine, Sep Kamvar, is actually doing this with a cryptocurrency where the Celo is the name of the currency, CELO. And the idea is that the stabilization fund for the currency is invested in these resources that we want to protect. Anyway, I don't want to go like into a whole lot of detail right now, just because I'd have to like sit down and actually like, reread what I wrote. And this is a question better answered in writing. So anyway, so I'll kind of take a pass on that one.
Yeah, great,
Yeah.
great. And you can always, if you have inspiration, you can always post on our book club section. Maybe you can come up as a surprise guest for them. Okay, so we're coming to the last question, which is kind of personal, but maybe not. I remember Brooke asking, how does it feel like to be canceled?
Canceled. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that severely canceled, got canceled from a few things, but I wasn't like totally kicked off the internet or something, or, physically harmed. It definitely brought up a lot of childhood traumas and insecurities and stuff. And yeah, like I got to work through some things that may not have otherwise been so obvious. Like this idea that someday they're going to come for me, which I think I inherited from my Jewish ancestors. Like this idea that, yeah, someday they're going to come for me. And so I better keep my head down. I better, not expose myself as different. And I better not, challenge the powers. So, yeah, I got to experience, at least a little bit of them actually coming for me in various ways. And, it wasn't that bad. So now I feel like I'm not really running scared as much as I had been before. Not that I was like a complete coward, but yeah, like I had a bit of fear that was not processed. So that was really, really useful. And another thing that, just like a lot of people, some people repudiated and denounced me, but a lot of people came with support and, showed me how much I'm loved and trusted. So overall, I'd say it was a positive experience. And so I give my thanks to all of those who canceled me for giving me this growth opportunity.
Yeah, Charles, thank you very much. And I want to say something that I kept learning from you, is that sometimes I observe you. I remember one time I was in the presence of some kind of meeting, and I noticed one of the meeting members were just directly attack you. but somehow your mentality just wasn't there, so you weren't really engaged with that person, and eventually that person kind of just fall away. So I thought that it was such a beautiful thing to do. So in my meditation, I oftentimes remind myself to focus on what I want to create rather than trying to, go into this defensive mode. And
Yeah, when someone attacks you, it's an invitation to enter the reality of a fight. But there's other realities that you can enter also.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so perfect timing. We're at time, and we have another community gathering in 15 minutes from now. Todd and Nori from Japan is going to be hosting it. Get some refreshment in this 15 minutes, and see you in another 15 minutes.
Great.
And
thanks,
for the
everybody.
ones- yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Charles. Have a nice beach time.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.